Next, let's view our search results. You can do so from the homepage by navigating to the Search History button in the navigation bar to the left. We can see that the type 2 diabetes mice GLP-1 search that we submitted earlier has completed successfully and that we found 159 papers. However, let's still view the type 2 diabetes rats GLP-1 search that was originally run. To open up search results for a particular search, just hover over its name in the search history page and click. You can also jump to search results from the homepage by going to My Recent Searches and clicking the search name there. The search results page lists all of the papers that we have found that match your keywords, that passed our filters, and for which we were able to extract conditions for. Before we explore the actual search results, one of the major features of ModernVivo is our model identification system. For every paper that we find in a search, we identify the specific disease models that were studied in that paper. For example, you can see in this first paper, we have identified both a type 2 diabetes model as well as a pre-diabetes model. You can click between the models used here to view different conditions. In this case, the conditions were largely the same. Model selection guides many of the filters and some of the other features on the search history page. Before we jump into those, let's explore the actual search results for a given paper. You can see under conditions for this paper all of the conditions that we were able to extract. So for example, we can see that this paper used 6-week-old male rats that weighed between 190 grams and 210 grams. They were given various treatment types and doses, and there was a wide variety of experimental outputs measured in this study. On each search card, you can also star a paper to favorite it and go back to later. You can click Original Paper to be brought to the publisher's website for this particular paper, either to access the full text or otherwise. And you can also click Paper Details to view more information. Here we list the models and their conditions again, and if you scroll down, you also see a summary of the methods, a summary of the results, as well as information about the authors and their affiliations. There are two ways to view papers on the search results page: the default list view and a separate view called split. In the split view, you can continually scroll down and scroll through the list of papers that we have found to click on each to more easily compare and view all of the models and the different conditions that were used in those papers. You're free to use either one depending on your preference. Now, you've probably seen this research summary card at the top of the search results page. So in some cases, you may run a search and find 100, 200, 300, or more papers. And it might take quite some time to actually go through and understand what were the most, for example, commonly used conditions, or to identify any trends in those conditions as used over time. This is what the research summary can do for you. To run a research summary, you have to select a model first. So next to Generate Summary, you'd click the drop-down menu here and select a disease model. In this case, we'll select type 2 diabetes mellitus. You can also opt to apply any filters that you have selected. In this case, we don't have any, so this will generate a summary for all 10 of these type 2 diabetes mellitus papers. We can simply click Generate Summary here. However, I'll jump into the Search Summary tab as I've already generated one for this search. To view your search summaries, simply click on the Search Summary tab at the top of the search results page. Here, you will see all of the different summaries that you have generated for a given search. In this case, we only have one, which we generated today. In the search summary, you'll see a breakdown of the conditions, looking at the most common choices, a more specific breakdown of those choices, and an identification of any trends over time. Let's jump back to the Papers tab. From the search results page, you can apply filters to further filter down the papers that you want to look at. Of course, as I mentioned earlier, you can filter papers based off of the identified disease models. In this case, most papers were identified with a type 2 diabetes mellitus model, but in some cases, such as in the second paper on the search results page here, we can see that Parkinson's disease was used. If you don't see the model that you're looking for, it's possible that it was cited in fewer than 10% of the total papers found in a given search, in which case you would click this dropdown and you can see the remaining models that were identified in the search. You can also filter papers based off of values of conditions. In this case, say we want to only look at papers that look at male mice, we can click into animal sex, and then we can click on male and apply that filter. We can also filter papers based off of affiliations. We can either select a general broad affiliation type, such as looking at just papers with authors whose affiliations come out of industry, or we can select specific affiliations, maybe if we're looking for a particular university or a particular company. Let's say we want to look at a paper coming from GlaxoSmithKline or papers coming from GlaxoSmithKline. We can select that as the affiliation, and now we will only see the papers that had authors who were affiliated with GlaxoSmithKline. So we can go into paper details. We can scroll down and see that many of these authors are affiliated with GlaxoSmithKline. Finally, you can also filter papers based off of their publication date. You can show only papers that you have favorited with the star function here. And depending on what version of ModernVivo you're using, you may be able to see papers that were cited in human clinical trial publications. Those papers, such as the first one in this search result, you can see have a badge appended to them, cited in clinical trial publication. Hovering over the badge will show you the actual human clinical trial publication that this paper was cited in. And you can scroll down, you can select the DOI, for example, and then look up that particular publication. Oftentimes, for translational relevance, you may be interested in viewing just papers that were cited in clinical trial publications, and you can do so by selecting this option here. In this case, only 2 papers were cited in clinical trial publications. Finally, we have the Models tab, which is just another way to apply a models filter, in this case listing the models that were used in this paper, with a default filter hiding models that were used in less than 10% of total papers, as does the drop-down filter option here. So for example, you could select models here. Let's toggle to show all the papers. Toggle to show all of the models. You can view all of the different models here and say, actually, I'm interested in the papers that are using Parkinson's disease. As an alternative to using the models filter in the filter sidebar, you can just click view papers here and we'll apply that filter for you. Finally, the last tab is Decision Tree. This is a new feature that is coming soon, and we're very excited to launch this and very excited to be able to tell you more about it later this year. For each of your searches, you can also view your keywords and conditions that were used to construct the search. And finally, again, this is dependent on what specific version of ModernVivo you're using. If you're coming from academia, if you're an industry scientist, for example, you may be able to export and share your search results. Clicking export/share will open up a small drop-down menu here with more options to export and share search results. You can first create shareable links. This is akin to Google Drive or Google Docs. Toggling this will generate a URL that you could, for example, send to colleagues who do not have accounts on modernvivo.com, and they would be able to open these search results without needing to create an account or logging in. You can also click Export CSV, and we will generate a CSV file for you that contains a flattened version of all of the search results that you'd be able to explore in our software. This may be helpful for example, doing your own downstream filtering or doing your own downstream data analytics based off of all of the information that we extract from these papers.